All right, let's dive into a legal case that honestly seems to defy all logic. It's a story where a candidate makes a huge mistake on paper, a mistake that should have been an instant disqualification, but instead it becomes the very thing that leads to an unbelievable political win.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. Imagine a politician filling out their official paperwork, and on a sworn legal document, they basically write, "Nope, I don't meet the requirements to run." How in the world does that story end with them winning the election? Well, that is the absolutely fascinating puzzle we are going to unpack today. So let's set the scene. The year is 1995. The former First Lady of the Philippines, the one and only Imelda Marcos, decides she's going to run for Congress in her home province of Leyte. Now, her opponent, a guy named Cirilo Roy Montejo, thinks he's found the perfect way to stop her. He's found what looks like a fatal, unfixable flaw in her candidacy. Okay, so the rule here is super straightforward. It's written right into the Constitution. If you want to run for the House of Representatives, you have to have been a resident of that district for at least 1 full year right before the election. That's it. It's not a suggestion, it's a hard and fast rule to make sure you actually have ties to the community you want to represent. And this is the gotcha moment. You can just imagine her opponent's team finding this, right there on her official sworn Certificate of Candidacy. Next to the question about her residency, she wrote 7 months. Not 1 year, 7. She put her signature on a legal document that, on its face, proved she was not qualified to run.
That should be it, right? Case closed. 1 year is more than 7 months. But as we are about to find out, in the weird world of election law, words don't always mean what you think they mean. And this unbelievable mistake? It was just the beginning of the story.
So this entire case, this whole crazy story, it all boils down to 2 words that we use interchangeably all the time: residence and domicile. In a normal conversation, they're pretty much the same thing, but in a court of law, they are worlds apart.
So, residence is what you and I would think it is. It's where you're physically living right now. You know, where you sleep at night, where you get your mail. It can be temporary, you could have a few of them. It's all about your physical presence.
Now, domicile, that's different. Think of it as your legal home base. It's that one fixed, permanent place that you always intend to return to, no matter where else you might be living. That intention to return is the secret ingredient here. You can have a bunch of residences, but you only get one domicile.
So let's just lay it out. Residence is physical, domicile is legal. Residence is where you are, domicile is where you intend to return. And here is the absolute kicker. The Supreme Court has said time and time again that for election law, when the Constitution uses the word residence, what it actually means is domicile.
Okay, so now that we know the magic word is domicile, Imelda's legal team builds their entire defense around this really interesting concept called domicile of origin. Basically, that's the home that you get the moment you're born.
So her lawyers come in with this argument. They say, look, even though she physically lived all over the place, in Norte with her husband, in the presidential palace in Manila, even in exile in Hawaii, she never legally abandoned her domicile of origin, which was Tacloban, Leyte. All those other places, they were just temporary residences forced on her by life.
But wait, there was a big problem with that argument. A legal curveball that comes from a totally different area of law, the Civil Code of the Philippines, specifically its rules about marriage.
See, back then, Article 110 of the Civil Code was pretty blunt. It said the husband gets to decide where the family lives. Legally, this meant that when a woman got married, her domicile automatically, by law, became the same as her husband's. It wasn't a choice, it was just how the law worked. So when she married Ferdinand Marcos, her legal domicile was zapped over to his in Norte.
And this right here becomes the central million-dollar question for the Supreme Court. Her husband, Ferdinand, had died years earlier. So what happened to her legally required domicile in Norte? Did she keep it until she actively changed it, or did something else happen automatically the moment he passed away?
So with all these moving parts, how did the court actually figure this thing out? Well, the final decision was definitely not what you'd expect, but their logic followed a very careful step-by-step path to get there.
Okay, let's walk through this. First, the court says, yep, for elections, residency means domicile. We're all on the same page there. Second, they agree her original domicile was in fact Leyte. Third, and this is the big one, they argue that because she was legally forced to take her husband's domicile, it doesn't count as a choice to abandon her original home. And finally, they rule that the second her husband died, that legal requirement vanished and her domicile automatically snapped right back to her original one, Leyte. So get this. The court's final conclusion was that her writing 7 months on the form wasn't a lie, it was just an honest misinterpretation of a super complicated legal situation. She was just talking about her physical residence, not her legal domicile, which, according to the court, had been Leyte the entire time, including the 1 year she needed. That statement on her form, factually wrong, but legally it didn't matter.
So what's the big takeaway here? What does this mean in the real world? Well, it's this incredible clash between the technicalities of the law and the will of the voters.
You can really boil down the court's entire thinking to this one idea. They said that what truly matters is the fact of her legal connection to the place, her domicile, not just a statement written on a form. They decided to look at the substance of the issue, not just a procedural error.
And here's the last crucial piece of the puzzle. You have to remember, while all this legal drama was unfolding, the election actually happened, and the people of her district in Leyte spoke, and they spoke loudly. They elected her by a massive margin of over 70,000 votes.
And that's the powerful question this case leaves us with. It shines a spotlight on a basic tension in any democracy. When you have a clear mistake, a technical error, but it's up against the clear, overwhelming choice of the voters, which one should win? It forces us to ask how we should balance the strict letter of the law against the powerful voice of the people.